Good evening. This is your girl AJ, the Suburban Princess, here on another edition of AJ Unleashed. Because today was a very shocking development in the land of Eagleville. It seems like Zadarius Smith, who just joined the Birds about maybe a month ago, has now decided to just retire. And apparently, the first thing that was mentioned about it was that it had nothing to do with the Eagles. It was a personal decision. He was thankful for this next phase of his life, and he, if you want to see his actual statement, go check his Instagram, because that's apparently where he decided to drop the bomb and shock the world. I'm wondering honestly if this was last minute, decision, or did something develop right after that last game. We can speculate, but so much because after a while it's just spreading rumors unnecessarily, and not respectively, because you don't know what the situation is. But as a fan, I kind of got that sinking feeling, and not like everyone else joining into the oh god, it's turning into 2023 type stuff after they did went 10 games winning and then all of a sudden started losing every last game. I'm just having that feeling of they're going to be nipping at the bud at that's not really what I wanted to say, but like they're going to be grasping at straws until week 9 of their bye, and they can get actually the current injured birds back onto the roster because they'll be healthy. We desperately need Nolan Smith. We desperately need Jalen Carter. We desperately need Quinyon Mitchell. We desperately need Landon Dickerson. And I feel like we're at a point where we're just going to have to be satisfied with the replacements. Not all of them are horrible, but we know the DBs are a lacking. And this announcement today of Zadarius Smith leaving the nest is surprising in so many ways, but at the same time, with the way things have been looking in the last 6 games with the Eagles, it shouldn't be shocking. I mean, last time we recorded the co-ed edition of Birds of a Feather, me and Eddie were feeling pretty confident that they could bounce back even after a short week and beat the Giants. They should have beat the Giants, but instead, the Giants beat that ass. The Giants looked prepared, they looked fast, they were constantly aggressive, everything the Eagles were not. And it did give you that feeling of how the Eagles looked when they played the 49ers the year after they went to the Super Bowl, where they just didn't seem to know how to play that same team that their ass they owned pretty much during the NFC Championship. So it's just very distressing when a team that you literally, I think we swept them too last season. I think it was them and the Cowboys that the Eagles swept last year, even with their backups playing. So it just kind of makes you feel like, are those, 3 key names that I mentioned earlier that are gone really the reason why this team is falling apart? Or is it philosophy? Are they not buying into uh, the current coordinator's uh, idea of offense? Is it really all his fault? Is Jalen losing confidence? I mean, someone had posted an old clip of him at the end of the year before, the year after the first Super Bowl loss, and what their opinion of Kevin Patullo taking over OC duties. And this has led, I'm just, paraphrasing because I don't remember the clip, but I know that started recycling over the weekend of Jalen not sounding too confident of Patullo taking over. Him being kind of the assistant and not really playing call playing, um, play calling, really didn't seem like an answer to the gap that Steichen left, and you know what Kellen Moore might have provided last season. I still never felt like Kellen Moore was really an asset last season, so I'm not mourning Kellen Moore at all because he's not doing anything spectacular in New Orleans. Now, mind you, the team sucks no matter what. So, but I do feel like Kellen Moore was kind of a like a like whether he stayed or not, it wouldn't have mattered. The thing that makes me mad as a fan is when you realize that a lot of the offensive coordinator stuff obviously is a mishmash of what the quarterback suggests as well as what the coach suggests or is used to. seeing the successful offense operate on. I think it's a collaborative effort. I do not think that one OC knows exactly what they want every week. Because if that's the case, as much as I didn't want to panic, and I remember saying this in the first couple of weeks of the Birds of a Feather Code Edition podcast, that I kept mentioning that I did not feel it was necessary to panic in the first couple of weeks because last year they stuttered stepped through the first four or five games last season. The difference is these injuries are piling up early. Last year, it was just the fact that they just weren't on the same page, and the injuries weren't as bad. I mean, I think it was last season or the season before that Smitty got the concussion. He was out. Then him and AJ traded not being present for the first couple games last season as well. And they ended up, filling the blanks as soon as they got back in. This year, Smitty and AJ are present, and it seems like they're not actually a factor because they're not getting the ball as often. Now, mind you, that leaves more room for Goddard, which I love because I wanted Goddard to be getting the ball as much as he should have been last year, too. But Goddard was out a game or two already this year. So the injuries have been kind of thrown off the rhythm, thrown off chemistry. But you also have to deal with the fact now that you got a coordinator who may not be gelling with everybody in his perspective of how he views every game. And that's scary because now you have to realize it's more than just 5 weeks that they're going to have to overcome this total overhaul of philosophy. But yet you got the same players. The only difference is you may not have that push you had on the defensive line, which no one's worried about Vic Fangio because Vic Fangio knows what he's doing. If anything, the defense got exposed during both the Broncos loss and the Giants loss. More so, both sides got exposed in the Giants loss because they didn't know what the hell was going on for most of that game. They didn't look too bad early, but they quickly folded. And it just got to the point where it was on an unrecognizable offense, especially after Quinyon left. And then you realize, like, great, now Keeley is going to get exposed as usual. And then you already had to deal with the fact that him and Adoree aren't really good, regardless. Whether Adoree's out there or not. Adoree got called out for standing around during the end zone tackle, and Al Michaels called him out on it. And then the next day, LaShawn McCoy on his podcast called out Adoree. So we're obviously suffering in the lack of DB consistency and, proof of sale. I mean, Keeley, you wanted to give him another opportunity. It's no different than, wanting to give Sidney opportunities. But Sidney had another bonehead play because he's just not in control of his body when he's flying at people, on special teams. So it's like there's just a lot of guys with a whole lot of fire and fight, but no aim, no direction, no technique. And so they're just being more exposed every game. You might as well bench them, but then you don't have anybody better than them to bench that's ready for game time who can take their place. Now, I think even on a Bird's Eye podcast with Dave Zangaro and Ruben. I think that Ruben Frank, I think they made the point that they think that Perry Nicholson probably should get in there next game and see what he can do as far as coverage and hopefully not getting blown out before hitting the red zone like Keeley was. So the next game is going to be the Vikings. Going to see good old Carson Wentz back. Now, mind you, Carson may not even be playing, though, because he hurt his shoulder when they were in London. So he may not even be playing. We may see the third stringer for all we know. But it really wouldn't matter because whether Carson plays or not, I'm sure he would love to start to be able to put Philly to sleep, knowing that they don't have their usual suspects and, things aren't really gelling. I'm sure he's watching tape. And I'm sure he knows that this is kind of what he was hoping to see if he ever had to face the Eagles again, is a shaky Jalen Hurts. But if he's not playing, and I don't know if they mentioned if Carson's going to be playing this week or not, I'm still worried about the Eagles folding because there's still a lot of injured birds that make both lines stay focused. Now, mind you, I know we still got Lane. I know we still got Mailata. I know Azeez Oluwajari's been playing well on the defense. And, we still got Zach. We still got Coop and Blankenship, although Blankenship's been getting beat up a lot, and he's been getting beat a lot. I don't know if maybe without CJ there kind of holding down in the middle where the rest of them could kind of just bounce in between their zones or stay in their zones. I feel like without CJ there to kind of be like the verbal presence, now that that's just primarily Zach Bond, I do feel like they definitely need to take advantage of the November trade deadline, if not before. I think a lot of people are expecting Howie to like bring somebody in this weekend, but they already just moved some guys from the practice squad up, which aren't names because they're probably guys that just either, other practice squad or six rounders that never did anything. Um, so the latest thing I heard, I forget what I saw on Twitter, but it's nothing to get excited about because we don't even know how this backup CB is going to play. But Tariq Castro Fields is going to be on the practice squad, and poor Eli Ricks is being released again. Now, mind you, that can mean nothing. I mean, Eli is not going to have to move out. I think he's just not going to be active. I don't know how they decide how many times they go back and forth with these guys on and off of practice squad, but I'd be pissed. I mean, it's probably how I feel any day, every day at my job anyway. It's like if you don't feel like you're doing anything useful, it's like just let me go. But you know, your presence may be enough for to be a placeholder when they absolutely have nobody. And that's usually what it comes down to when you're hitting the practice squad is you don't have anybody who's active or I guess had enough reps to take that place unless you're totally decimated. So yeah, God bless Eli Ricks because if I were him, I would feel like so defeated. But then he could be one of them young boys that don't even care. He's getting paid to not play, and that's as good as it's going to get for him in the NFL. Maybe he realized the couple of chances that he had really weren't productive after a while, and so maybe he even knows that he's got a lot of work to do, or he's probably has no feelings at all. Maybe he's just happy to still be part of the squad, even if he's not an active roster or active participant. Needless to say, is it time to panic? No, but you are feeling little seeds of distrust in the front office. I personally always every year bitch about how I never like how Howie handles the free agency stuff with copy and pasting guys' salaries and just bringing anybody else midseason and thinking it's going to stick. And usually only maybe one or two of those guys ever works out, and then they end up leaving because they aren't going to take the money that they're going to get the following year because it's not worth it when they can get a good close of their career somewhere else. I mean, now you miss Milton. Now you miss, now you definitely miss. Just had that. Just had the player in my head too. I definitely miss Milton, and you definitely do miss Isaiah Rogers. As weird as that sounds right now, obviously you miss CJ, but Isaiah Rogers, shockingly, probably would have been the next best thing in a situation where Quinyon is not healthy now and Keely's not effective. Special teams definitely looked very out of place last game. So shockingly, now mind you, again, a short week does not give you a lot of time to rest, and it doesn't give you a lot of time to kind of cramp in a lot of tape to look over. And you could also take the Giants lightly because they're starting Jackson Dart, and at that point, he's only had maybe one game under his belt as a starter, and he didn't look very threatening until they played. And he started looking like trying to replicate what Jalen was in his rookie year. You know what I mean? Like when he started towards the end of the season replacing Carson. So knowing that he kind of got a swagger off of being inspired by Jalen, because apparently later he told Jalen that or had some kind of communication with Jalen saying that he looked up to him. And which is almost like a little creepy because it kind of reminds me of that Rayola kid in college who's like, you know, mimicking all of Patrick Mahomes' isms. And I feel like Mahomes is not doing his isms as much anymore because of that kid. And I will stand by that theory or die on that hill, however you say it, because I do feel like sometimes you just can idolize someone a tad too much to the point where you don't have your own style. And the thing is with Jalen, he has never modeled himself out of anybody else. He's always just been that cool dude because his father is a very laid back, cool dude. That's the only person he could ever replicate would be his own DNA. So he's just born with it. And there are some kids out here who think that they can just copy and paste that person, and they just can't because it looks a little creepy. It just looks very unoriginal. So, and he's also college, so maybe he'll grow out of the worship and he'll just learn to find his own way. But say all that to say, back-to-back losses. The Broncos game was kind of disappointing because it was a game that was pretty much in the Eagles' hands and they just let it get away. There were a lot of stupid calls, and especially the obvious call on Dallas Goedert that was such bullshit and so obviously defensive pass interference that it wasn't even funny. And then there were just some stupid calls, and there was also just there was a lot of messiness on the front line, on the O line a lot, so that's kind of set them up for false starts. So some of those calls earlier in the game, to me, I couldn't be too upset. Jalen's always getting knocked upside the head, and they never call it on him for some reason or the other. But he got smacked a couple times that I kind of thought like y'all can't throw the flag at least just once, one time on roughing the passer, like Jesus. But yeah, I don't think it was one of those games that yeah, you felt like the refs lost it for them. The only one was really blatant at that point, as far as blaming the refs, was clearly the missed call on Goddard because he at least would have had a shot at first and goal. Um, so that game I wouldn't even count totally all on the Eagles. But I now that I've gone back and looked at every other game up until week 7, I realize like they have barely won. It's again like two seasons back. They're barely winning games, which is never encouraging because when the good teams really start revving up, mid-season, the Eagles are still going to be on like stilts. They're still either just going to be getting guys back or they're still not going to be comfortable in the scheme based on how Tulo is mapping it. So, granted, we know that they're not going to fire him because there really is no other replacement. If no one felt comfortable with Coach Sirianni calling the plays back a couple years back, it's not the time to try now because at this point we know he's going to be doing a lot of sucker shit that after a while is going to make you realize, okay, that's just dumb. Like, why? Because he does a lot of stuff sometimes. He'll make these last minute fourth down calls and you just sit there and go, why? 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 You can always tell a Sirianni call at this point as opposed to another OC's call because they're just too impulsive and stupid. Um, I did like the one variation of the tush push. They didn't really have to do it because they chose to do the tush push like 5 times in this last Giants game, and it helped. But you do not have the same. You don't have that same Jason Kelsey engine. I think that Jurgens is still learning to physically, emotionally handle having all that weight on him. He had back surgery, and I know that the rumor is that back surgeries never really make it better. You never really heal totally from a back injury. So he's always going to probably be, a factor, but he's not a liability. I just don't think he's always going to be the answer to issues that they might have in the middle of the O line. And I've heard other critiques of him that, he still has a lot to work on. Has he grown? Yes, but there's a lot more room to improve. Um, I'm kind of glad they finally sat Landon down because Landon recovering from MCL on top of the fact that he started developing a bum ankle, I really didn't feel the need for watching him, totally be blown off the line so early when he normally is the one bullying. So with him not being able to fully bully, knowing that he's accident prone a lot since we drafted him, it's just you don't want to see him have to fight through yet another year of the same kind of issues in different parts of his legs. So I'd rather have him ready to bum rush after week 9 and take over. Because let me see their schedule. Oh, let me see. Yeah, because they have the bye. Oh no, they play the Giants again. So they play the Giants at home on the 8th. No. I always say 8th, but that's just the number of game. October 26th. Then they have the bye. Then they come back and play Green Bay. And Green Bay has been up and down too. So this might be one of them games that's going to come down to a field goal, or it might be like a 1 point win because they're just as up and down as Green Bay. I think Green Bay has less injured players right now, but they're also suffering from sometimes losing games that they should win too. So it could be a philosophy thing, although they just won. They just won this past weekend. So, they may be feeling ultra confident by the time the Eagles play them again. Um, but either way, I'm never confident with Green Bay because even since last year in Brazil, I think that the Birds know that Hurts and Love have a history of kind of just being the same level, if not close, as far as playing ability and being neck and neck and getting their teams against each other and having to be a good matchup. Now, mind you, lately the Eagles have gotten Green Bay's goat, but Eagles are still kind of vulnerable right now, and they may not look the same way they did earlier because they weren't the team with the target on their backs like they are this year. And that's another thing, even before I wrap this up. You have to understand that also being a fan is that you have to realize that once you win a Super Bowl, you are always going to be I don't know, uh, you're always going to be the target, but at the same time, you're also now on video to all those other teams that couldn't beat you the year before. So now everything that Jalen kind of does, his tendencies are pretty much out there. Um, Other players that normally have been able to sucker punch other players outside of Jalen, they're predictable now. So I think, speaking of predictable, I think it makes sense that what Lane Johnson said about them being really predictable in their scheming is showing that there's a point where you have to learn. And I think people have stressed this ever since Sirianni started coaching, the lack of creativity with play calling, because there are tons of plays they can run, but there are some plays that they look like they kind of leave out on purpose because they're not sure it'll work in the actual game time or if other players can't, catch the signal in time to make it work. They don't have all their horses too. So you have to realize some games are just going to be conservative because they now really don't have all their dogs. So there's probably going to be the same continuity and lack of creativity because you don't have the players that you normally go to battle with every week. Now you got their backups, or now you got guys that are playing for half their usual time because they're working out of injury. I mean, Quinion probably won't see the field now, probably till the bye, until after the bye, because hammies are never something you want to play on right away. Even if you gave it 10 days, it's hit or miss. Like he could go out there and realize during warm-ups that he still feels a tug or he still feels tender in that area, and he may not. Part of Quinion locking people up is he needs to have all his vitals and his legs be strong. And if he feels like he's giving one little edge, he's just going to get run over. Healy has to learn through adversity, and Lord knows that boy is already going through adversity. He means well. He's a fast kid. He's good. He's in shape. It's just, I do not think he is capable of knowing where to be at the right time. Just like he's like literally just a couple seconds off. And if he's right on somebody, then he's shocked he gets a call, a flag, because you can't be glued on to someone either. You can't be grabbing jerseys. Like if you can't get them, you can't get them. But I think it's his way of trying to show, like, I was here, Although there were kind of, as much as people don't want to give him total credit, he wasn't horrible during the Giants game. It's just they knew to throw in his area because Quinion normally is the threat. So they're not going to throw anywhere outside of Keeley because he's the only one that's out there looking vulnerable. Even if he doesn't seem scared and he plays confident, he does, but he still has a risk of, to me, of looking like Jalen Mills was back in the day, where he acted like he never seemed to do anything wrong. He never double, did the double step or whatever they will call it. I feel like he's like Jalen Mills. Like he'll never probably back down from criticism because it just doesn't look right. And then on top of that, I don't think he's really connected fully with what his position involves. I think he just thinks that as long as I grab them, I did my job. And you have to wrap them up, though. You can't just grab at them. You have to wrap them up. And a lot of the tackling has become subpar again. And it could be these last two games, it could have been fatigue, but that's not an excuse, especially after 10 days and they still look like what they look like versus the Giants. No excuses. If you're hurt, get on the bench, or get on IR. We don't want guys out there looking like they're winded before they even do anything. That's pointless. And that also makes the coaches look like they didn't prepare you. So conditioning is a big thing in this 10 days, if anything. But I also embracing myself for them to look exactly the same as they did these last two games because there's nothing they really can overcome in a short amount of time. Granted, Zadarius did only get maybe one or two really impressive sacks or hurries or pull downs or whatever you call them, but I tackles for loss. I do feel like his lack of presence though is going to make Jalix and all those other D guys that are there to over pursue now. Because Jalen Carter is probably going to be going to the bye too, because not only does he have the shoulder issue, now he's got a heel issue, which means he possibly is avoiding an ACL tear. So there could be a lot of things going on with Jalen Carter that he can't quickly get back on the field and make it work. I feel like they're going to have to learn ways to get to the quarterback that may be out of their comfort zone, but it may also create enough of a diversion to kind of psych the quarterback out to make them think like you're coming and you're not really coming, but you're making more, I don't know, reaching out more, extending your hands more. If you can't physically get there, do a lot of crap with your arms or something to distract them because it may look dumb. It may look like you have no other options, but you really don't right now. We're going to be watching the same depleted team for the next couple weeks. So I'm mentally prepared for this Vikings and this Giants game to look exactly the same as the Broncos and the Giants loss. So now, mind you, like I said, the only thing that could change between now and those last two games are the quarterbacks. Not on our side, thank God, but on their side. But I still feel like the Vikings have every reason to play more energized than the Eagles O-line will. I do feel like Mailata gets targeted a lot, getting blown up on his side. Um, Lane's been overcoming early injury too, so I wouldn't be shocked if every now and then he comes out or they flip guards or whatever, or tackles, whatever. I just wouldn't be shocked if there's a lot of moving around for this next matchup. Because other than that, the Giants already got their numbers. So if the Giants beat them again before the bye, then that's already one divisional battle you lost out on. They beat the Cowboys, but even though I went back and watched that game the other day, I thought to myself, I still didn't feel like that was like really exciting of a blowout. It wasn't like what it was last year. So I think the Cowboys know had they not had a CeeDee Lamb injury, that they really could have won that game too. I mean, Dak was playing his ass off, and they still lost to the Panthers this weekend. So, any given Sunday for real. But to close my Unleashed black and white edition, because I felt like it wasn't necessary to have color right now, because I feel like we're all at a loss right now as fans, and we're just in this weird limbo waiting period for the worst to happen. But I do feel like as fans, this is the most important time to not always feel the need to predict the future, but it's perfectly normal to feel like you want to be doom and gloom. It's so easy to do. But as much as you hate when your team plays sucky and then they have that big, like the mini bye, as they call it, you're kind of glad you don't have to watch another excruciating Sunday for at least another 10 days. But now that it's like getting closer to, I mean, it's Monday, but by the time Wednesday or Thursday hit, I always say I'm ready to start a whole new, like turn the page. Like I'm already like by Wednesday, I'm over. And I was kind of even over it even before the weekend hit because I knew that that game was a result of not being prepared, losing key guys, and then also losing Quinyon the same night. So there was a lot of adversity that they could not overcome. And then, Jalen was missing people and he's still missing guys. Now, I think he's also missing guys because they're rerouting themselves differently. And regardless of what AJ said or what Devonta hasn't said, it's clearly obvious the offense is off. So if Jalen's off, the offense is off. So, and if the defense could just hold for 2 more weeks convincingly, so these teams don't come in here and just expect to collapse, it would just be more encouraging for the bye week for them to really kind of pull away from football for a while, then get back to it a couple days or a week before. Um, because the the mental and physical toughness that is required for these professional athletes is unmatched when you compare it to the common 9 to 5 worker. I always whine when I come home that I'm mentally exhausted, but I can't imagine physically what a player goes through because you go through reps, walkthroughs, all before the actual game, and then you get your body rocked for 90 minutes. So I don't think anybody can compare to the drama that goes through with being a professional athlete. But as a fan, all we can do is just hope and pray that we don't watch the repeat of that year that everyone keeps bringing up on social media because it's 2025, it's a different year, and there are different hurdles to overcome. So it's not going to be a repeat of that year, but it may be its you know, own year of adversity that they're going to have to overcome. So here's here. Keep your head up. Next time, if we have Birds of Feather Code edition this week, maybe Mr. Eddie will give me his thoughts on the last 2 games in general and see how he's been dealing with it or not dealing. Because sometimes you just don't want to deal with it. After a good week, after a really bad game, you just kind of like, I don't want to talk about it. I'm over it. But I needed my own therapy. And if you were listening, thank you for listening. And if you weren't, it's okay too. It's my channel. I felt like saying what I wanted to say. In the meantime, also shout out to Miss Asia Wilson winning her third WNBA Finals championship and her fourth MVP. So she's enjoying life right now as a Las Vegas winner on the Las Vegas Aces. That was an enjoyable sweep of a finals. Phoenix Mercury had them until they didn't have them. But respect to Alyssa Thomas, as much as I think she'd be complaining too much about every freaking call. Her playing with 2 torn labrums, I don't understand how you do that. I hope she gets surgery if it's possible because I don't understand how she's living life like that. So I hope to God she gets surgery in the off season and gets herself fixed. And if not, I hope she heals as long as she needs to heal because I don't know how you do professional basketball with 2 torn labrums, but it's each his own. But as the WNBA season closes, we know that as it gets closer to Halloween, the big talk is going to be whether or not the CBA is going to be taken care of or if it's just the deadline is going to pass and nothing will happen. I would think the latter at this point, but knowing all the talk that happened between what Nafisa said in her exit speech and then what Kathy Engelbert has kind of danced around, um, it's going to be another day at the office. So I really don't think too many of their demands are going to be met, as sad as that is. But I think they should at least try to work a creative way to reward the players financially just for the successful TV year ratings and, uh, you know, the deals that Kathy said that she worked so hard for to get for them. They should be able to reap the benefits of that, at least. If you're not going to do anything else, give them some part of that TV ratings pie cash because these people are going to be going out signing as many endorsement deals as they can to make their money last for the year that the WNBA does not provide. Because other than that, it's just going to be unrivaled in January, and uh, probably the tease of the Philly WNBA team ideas next year. So 2026 is looking promising on that side of the WNBA. But other than that, you might have the same disgruntled veterans who will have to remind Kathy Engelbert every day of the new year that they helped her have the unction to want to get those deals done because they gave her a product to sell to those highest bidders. And they should be able to see the benefits of their hard work. Point blank, period. Also, before I end this, shout out to all those missing Black women, especially the most recent case of the young lady who was missing in Chestnut Hill. I think her name is Kata, could be Kata. Rest in peace to any of those who have already perished from said gruesome, random missing Black women stories and never make it home again. Just pray that she's not the latest victim, but if something did happen, I hope whoever's responsible gets caught and is under the jail. Because bottom line is, y'all need to start leaving us Black women alone. When we just try to work, do our thing, and go home. Mind your business. Just because we ain't give you no play, just because we don't pay you no mind, doesn't mean you have to forcibly throw your patriarchy and power all over us to make us remember you. Just walk home. Go the fuck away and leave us alone. Let us be in our Black girl magic and leave us the fuck alone. I pray that she comes home. I pray that she's still alive. And yeah, if you don't want to celebrate us or tolerate us, stay the fuck away from us. And I'm closing out my AJ Unleashed by saying, be good to yourself, take care of your mental, and I will pod again, whether it be with my co ed or just myself. We'll see how the week shakes out. Peace. Talk to y'all soon. Bye.